Hey guys, welcome to a rainy Saturday morning. That means we're in the shop today. So we're going to be changing the oil in our F150. This has the 4.6 liter Triton motor. And what I'm going to show you today would hold true for, I think, most all Triton motors, whether it's the 5.4 or the 4.6. So the exception to that might be the oil filter. I know for my motor, it gave us two options. I believe it's the thread pitch that's different, metric or standard. So for me, I'll show you what we're using. I prefer to go to Napa, and Napa, for my application, is a 1372 oil filter. They also recommended for oil a Castrol full synthetic 520. So we're going to be running that. For tools, I've got a flashlight that has a slide on it, magnetic, metric wrenches. This is for the oil drain plug. It's a 17 millimeter. I also have an 18 millimeter that I'm going to be double wrenching for more leverage. I can show you that when we get down there. And then of course the oil filter wrench and drain pan. So with that, the first step would be draining the oil. So let's grab our wrenches and drain pan and go down. Okay, so here's the oil drain plug, 17 millimeter. 17 millimeter. And the double wrenching is going to be hooking the socket end to the open end of the wrench. That makes it longer for more leverage. We're going counterclockwise because righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. And we broke it loose. So now that drain plug is nice and loose. So we'll get our pan under here. Not quite finger loose, apparently. Okay, so there. Now it's finger loose, and now I'm early. So with our drain pan in place, I'm just gonna take this loose, and boop, there goes the oil. Okay, so we'll just let that drain, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, coming out. All right, so it is finished draining. I'm just gonna wipe up my mess here. Get that wiped up. And so what I'm looking for is the surface that this washer mates with, is that it's just clean. That way we don't get any oil leaks. So we'll get that going again. 18. Okay, so with the 17, that's just kind of snug. So what I'm gonna do is wipe this one more time. And then we're just gonna give it a little extra here with our double wrench. We're gonna go whoop, just to snug that up. Okay, just clean up my mess. So oil's been drained, plug's tight. Let's move on to the oil filter. So now we're going to be up top, now that the oil's been drained, plug's tight. So the first step up here is going to be removing the air filter assembly, and that is only to gain access to the oil filter that's down there. So to do that, we're gonna have to undo that hose clamp, this hose clamp, and then this is a breather line here. And so this green tab, we're gonna go back and up and hold that, and with our other hand, just pull that out. I actually went ahead and loosened these ahead of time. And then these should just pull right out. And we're gonna set that aside. So let me grab my stool. So with that out of the way, you might be able to see the oil filter. Can you see that?
Point to it.
If I can. That's the oil filter right here. Such a horrible place for an oil filter. But that's where they put it. So we get to work with what we got. So a lot of what I'm gonna be doing is just working kind of like by braille, just the feel of it. Obviously you saw where that oil filter is. We're going counterclockwise to get that off. And so I'm just gonna take this wrench down there and get to it with pretty limited access and a weird angle. But that's that. Ugh. There we go. So once we get it loose, I'm just gonna double check the drain pan that's underneath the truck and make sure that it's in line to catch whatever's gonna come out of the filter. See what I mean? Tight spot. Okay, so that's pretty well loose. So let's go under the truck and just make sure that the drain pan is positioned where I want it. And I think it is.
How do you know where to put it?
So I'm just looking at the oil filter right here. That's above this frame rail. The oil filter's right here. The oil should drain on the back side of this housing here. So I'm gonna undo that filter by hand now, and I don't know if maybe you can, I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh, you want me to see it from down there?
Sure. So I'm just gonna undo this by hand up here, now that I've got it broke loose. And you get to see if I'm on with the pan or if I'm off. Am I on?
You got it.
Woo! Okay. So pulling the oil filter out. I'm gonna set this aside on my rag. Okay. So old oil filter and new one. And so what I'm gonna do is take some of this oil, this new oil, and I'm just gonna splash it like that, just a little bit, and then lubricate this O-ring. All right, so let's go put this in. So what I do because this is so tight, I actually put my finger in the hole and I'm going down, but it's really tight, you know, it's between the pulleys and the fan shroud, but it's right down here. I'm gonna take my finger out of the hole. And again, this is kind of by braille, where I'm just feeling it around. There they go. We just went out.
I don't know.
So now that oil filter is down there, I'm just gonna be feeling around for that threaded piece that the filter screws onto. It's super tight, but I did get it, so I'm just screwing it on by hand. So I'm just gonna tighten it by hand and then give it a couple of turns with the filter wrench. And I think I'm just about there. I'm only able to get like 1/8 of a turn or something like that per turn, you know. Okay, so let's button it up with the filter wrench. There we go. Okay. Who knows? Maybe after you watching this video, oil can Henry might be a pretty good option. All right, so that feels pretty good. Bink. I'm gonna give it one more feel just to make sure it's good and snug. We're not going overly tight here. Over time, it'll tighten up on its own as the engine heats up and cools down. It'll tighten itself. So don't over tighten it, just snug is all I'm looking for. And that feels snug. Okay. Whew. That was the hard part. Okay, so now that the filter's in place, we're good to put this air filter assembly back in. So going back in with the intake tube. That's in place, that's in place. And we're gonna go back and up on this green tab, back and up, and push in this time. And that's on. Now we're just gonna tighten these up. And then this one. All right, so let's just add the oil and then we'll be done skiing. Okay, so time to add the oil. We're going in here, that cap. It's a good way to remember the type of oil to get. Right in there. And so what I'm gonna do is start by adding 5 quarts and then we'll check the oil. I believe this is gonna take almost 6 quarts. So I'm just gonna start with 5 and pull the dipstick and see. Okay. 1. 5 quarts in, we're gonna check the dipstick right here and just see what 5 quarts gave us. It looks like it's about halfway on the dipstick, so let's go ahead and put the 6th in there, and then hopefully that's gonna be money. Okay, so there's 6. Check our dipstick.
Show us what it's supposed to be.
Okay, I'm gonna wipe that clean.
Tell us about it.
All right, so with 6 quarts in, it might not show up on the camera, but my oil is right at that top hole right there, right where my thumb's at. So that's good. My oil level is gonna drop once you start the motor. That oil has to fill up the filter, the new filter, and that'll drop the oil level. So we're gonna put the cap back on, the filler cap, start it, and then we're gonna recheck the oil level. So, now that we've started it up, I'm gonna double check our oil level. I'm gonna wipe that clean, do a recheck, and we'll see how much it dropped. Whoa, it dropped quite a bit. So we're down right where my thumb's at. So really, that's at least half a quart, maybe every bit of 1 more quart. So this might actually be a 7 quart oil change. So anyway, I'll add the last quart and call it good. So I hope this was helpful for any of you Triton owners out there. Just know that that oil filter is gonna be the hardest part about this whole thing. It's such a horrible location, but it is what it is. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a great day. Hope you find this useful. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. See ya.